All right, off to the races. Howdy to everyone who's already connected. Let's see a few people. Gonna give it a few minutes just to see how many other people we can get in here before we kick off. So give us 2 or 3 minutes maybe. While we wait to get started, if anyone has any questions that they're coming into this with, if you're in this webinar because you've run into something in the past and you're hoping I'm going to address it, maybe now's a good chance to throw it in as a question, and I'll know that when the time comes, I can jump on that one for you. Howdy, Grant. I'll do my best to keep an eye on chat and questions and whatnot, but as we go through this, you'll see Trav's in the comments, and he'll be replying as questions pop up as best he can, just so that I can talk you through it. So if he gets back to you with any of your questions, that's who it is. That's what's going on. All right, that's 10:30. We might get started. I reckon we might have a few more people trickle in the next few minutes. Howdy, Martin. Good to have you. All right. Okay. So for those of you who haven't been to one of our webinars before, welcome. This is the How to Boost Conversions with Effective Landing Pages webinar, hosted by myself, Dom. Bit of housekeeping, as I just mentioned, as we go through, and Trav left a message there in the chat as well. As we go through, feel free to ask any questions that pop up in the moment, and Trav will respond to them as we go through. He's there, literally just there to answer questions as they pop up. I will also have some time at the end if you want to wait and see if it gets covered naturally. We can go through any questions you might have at the end when we get there. Otherwise, we'll just jump into it, I reckon. It's good to see you guys making friends in the chat already. All right, awesome. So first and foremost, who am I? Who am I to be giving this little chat? I'm Dom. I am the Neighbourhood. Some of you may remember me from my last webinar on smart content, or have worked with you in the past. I've been part of Neighbourhood for, it's just been my 3rd anniversary since I started my internship with them. So working officially a little bit less than that, but since day one, it's just gone 3 years. Apart from that, started out as a graphic designer, went through a bit of an advertising track, and learned my way around copywriting from an advertising point of view. Now I'm in marketing, with a significant amount of time spent in pizza shops making pizza throughout that process. I think I spent about 11 years making pizza. So if you need help with marketing or pizza making, I am your man. Let's get into it from the get-go. So the goal of today's little chat is to go through landing pages from top to bottom effectively. We want to talk about what they are, where to use them, how to use them, what goes into building a good one, things you should look out for that will help you optimize them, all with the goal of getting more conversions. So there's a few different uses of landing pages, which we'll go through in a second. Today's chat, we're going to be specifically focusing on conversions and how to make sure that they are turning over solid, whether it's visited a lead or lead to MQL or something like that, making sure that they're working for you. I'm going to start at the start with what is a landing page. Now, I'm going to assume that most of you guys have at least a bare essentials knowledge of what a landing page is, but for everyone else, a landing page effectively is where you trigger a visitor into taking an action. So the whole point of a landing page is you're trying to get someone to do something. More specifically, it's where you as a business can collect information from your visitors. So this is an opportunity for you to learn about your audience, learn about the people that you're marketing to, in that they give you information via the form. So when I say you're learning about them, you're learning their email address, you're learning their phone number, etc. It's also kind of like a front door to your website. So it's, for a lot of people, if they come through certain promotional means, whether it's PPC, it's an email, something like that, it's the first thing they're going to see of your online presence. So generally, a lot of people will send respondents to an ad, or your audience in general to a homepage or something like that, which can be a little bit vague, and it's tough to explicitly tell them what you want them to do when you do that. Better option is to use it as like a front door. So you send them to the landing page. That's their first experience. You make it very clear. The goal is to open this door. Once they've opened the door, then they can explore the site. One quote I found, which I thought is a pretty good way of rounding it up, from a fellow called Ted Vruntis by Marketo. A landing page is a standalone page disconnected from a website's main navigation, created for the sole purpose of convincing a visitor to take action. I like that because it referenced the fact that it's not part of your main website. A landing page generally will sit separate to your main website. You won't see it on navigation or anything like that. Generally, sometimes you will, but generally it sits separately because it serves one specific purpose. It's not necessarily there for anyone to find and move through. It's there for someone very specifically to find and move through. This is just sort of going through that idea of it being a front door or a front door or a gateway into your website. All of these sorts of source locations, email campaigns, social posts, PPC ads, you want to send them through a landing page before they get to the website so that you can get what you need out of them, whether that's contact information, or you can tailor that experience more specifically. You don't want to send them right to the website because then it's very, very difficult for them to get them to do what you want them to do when you're giving them all of the options. Once they go through the landing page, of course, then you can set them free. So when should a landing page be used? You can't just have a website full of landing pages. They're not a cure-all or a catch-all for every different situation. They do have a very specific usage. So I would say that landing pages can be used for adding as the destination for a specific promotion, marketing campaign, or ad. So say, for example, you have an offer or you have some sort of promotion you're doing, something like that. Landing page is where you get them to sign up, you get them to convert, you get them to take that final piece of action of that marketing campaign or ad. It's a lead generation source. That's probably how most of us use landing pages, as a way to generate leads, which is to say convert visitors into leads. It's a gateway for content. So anything, you have an ebook, you have a webinar, you guys went through a landing page to get to this webinar, presumably, unless you know someone. Product pages, if you have products on, say, like an e-commerce site, those are technically landing pages, but they have slightly different rules. And it's a way to gather information about your audience. So as we mentioned, this is an opportunity for you to learn specific information about your audience so that you can better market to them or segment them in the future. When should to build on that, effectively landing pages for whenever you have a transaction with your audience. So if you're giving them something and you want something in return, that's a landing page. If you have an ebook and you want their contact information, that's a landing page. If you have a product and you want their money, that's a landing page. So an entry, anything like that, where it's a bit of a transactional sort of context, that's where a landing page makes sense. I can see Chris has asked, what do you mean that product pages have different rules? When I say that, I simply mean that, say, for example, we're going to get into some of the best use guidelines in this presentation. They don't necessarily apply to every type of landing page. So I mentioned that a product, if you go to a clothing store website and they have products, those products technically are landing pages, that they are pages that serve a specific purpose for you to find the product. You can't do all of the things that I'll be telling you to do today on that sort of page. One quick example is one of the things we'll go through is removing unnecessary links. So making sure that there is only one course of action they can take. They can only submit your form. They can't get lost or distracted. You wouldn't want to do that on a shop. You don't want to lock someone out of going back and browsing items and stuff like that, forcing them to commit to the purchase, because that's just going to annoy people, and they're not going to want to use it for that. They're not going to want to use your pages. So when I say it has different rules, that's sort of what I mean. These aren't all applicable to all landing pages. Today, we're going to be talking about when you want to optimize your landing page specifically to convert. This is your best course of action. When shouldn't a landing page be used? So as a directory that links to multiple places on your site or to multiple offers. So a landing page should have one purpose. It has one goal. It has one thing it's trying to do. It shouldn't send people to different places on your site. It shouldn't send people to different, offers and pages and blogs. It has exactly one goal. It also isn't a blog or a content piece in and of itself. You shouldn't be trying to educate someone on your landing page. You can give them some detail about what they're going to be getting in terms of a product or service, but it's not where you should be teaching them what that product or service will be doing. That's for the product or service. It's purely just the gateway to that knowledge. So let's talk about how to build yourself a killer landing page with Builder Dom. Dom the Builder, something like that. The process that I follow is this 3-step process. This is actually a process that we use a lot in a lot of different places. We have something very, very similar for website design, both GDD, traditional, this comes up a lot. This is just a version of it that is specific to landing pages. The 3 main stages: strategy and planning, design and development, and then tracking and optimization. Strategy and planning is what we'll go through first, and that breaks down into a few subcategories: research and planning, buyer personas, wireframing, and SEO. So research and planning. First thing you want to do when you start putting together a landing page is work out what the goal of that page is. Now, as I mentioned before, every landing page should have one specific goal. There is one thing you're trying to achieve with this landing page. What is that thing? Often it's as simple as we want them to submit the form, but you also keep in mind things like the end game. We want their information. We want them to become a lead or a customer, etc. That's sort of a bigger goal, but it has one specific goal. What is it you want the person to do? Everything that you on the page should reflect that goal. All the design should try and get them to go through the form, should push them towards the form. The CTA should make it easy to submit the form, everything like that. So you have one goal, work towards that one goal. What is the goal of the visitor? So the person coming to the page has their own goal that they want to complete. The question they need to have answered. What sort of help are they looking for? There's a very interesting concept here around customer intent. So what is the need behind the question they ask? Because one of the core ways you'll see a lot of people use landing pages is as the destination from something like a PPC ad or some sort of search ad. The best thing you can do in terms of making this a seamless experience is linking the page and the value that you're giving them through that page to the question they asked to get to it in the first place. So say, for example, someone Googles how to set up Facebook ads. When they get to your page, it should very specifically answer the question, how to set up. But that's necessarily their intent. Their intent might be that they're in need of marketing assistance in a more general sense. And you can sort of get that from the way they've worded the question. They're saying, how do I set up Facebook ads? It implies that they don't have knowledge in that area, which is a pretty basic area, which tells you that they might need help in other basic areas, stuff like that. So this is where you can start making sure that your page is looking to solve their real problem. Absolutely address the thing that they've written, because that's the first thing they're going to respond to. But you can then, in your benefits and the way you speak, the tone, the way you write the copy, try and address the bigger problem that they might be facing. And this is the sort of thing that you can test and measure down the track. Some other questions you can ask yourself in this stage is, are you already answering this question somewhere on your site? Do you already have a landing page that covers this? Do you already have an offer or a blog or something like that that answers this? Not a reason not to make the landing page, but it's good to know if you have multiple things that are answering this question that could be consolidated or something to pull from. And then again, just making sure that your landing page is always the solution to a problem. Every landing page should address one specific problem. You don't want one landing page solving a bunch of different issues, because you're going to dilute the messaging. Each landing page solves a specific problem, and that problem is how the person got there. Some other things to keep in mind. Now, some of this stuff will actually take place in the design phase or in the writing phase, but this is where you should start thinking about it. That's why I put it in research and planning. This is stuff to keep in mind throughout the upcoming process. It's not necessarily where you'll be putting this together, but it's relevant. So keep in mind attention, interest, desire, action, AIDA. Are you capturing their attention? So that's the headline, the design, the use of images, etc. First and foremost, have you caught their attention immediately as soon as the page loads? Are you keeping their interest? Do you have things on that page that are causing them to stay on the page and continue reading? Attention is getting them to not immediately bounce away, but interest is keeping them there. Are you making them desire your product? Are you doing a good enough job of selling whatever you are trying to sell to them that makes them want to, stay, makes them trust in the service you're offering? And is there a clear course of action? So do you have the action you want them to take clearly laid out, obvious, easily accessed, all that sort of stuff? If you follow those 4 points, then you have a pretty solid landing page off the bat. The other thing to keep in mind, keep it simple. Don't overthink your landing page. Simplicity is key. You have one goal, one course of action. A lot of bad landing pages you'll see, and if you just like Google bad landing page examples, everyone loves to have a dig. One of the things that'll come up a lot is that they overcomplicate it. There's just too much going on. They're trying to say too many things. They're trying to send you to too many places. Simplicity is key. You have one goal, one course of action. All you need to do is get them to do that. Just focus on that one thing. If you start thinking, is this a bit over the top? Have I gone a bit hard here? It's probably already too late. So think of a landing page as the bare minimum you need to get them across the line. Anything on top of that quickly becomes unnecessary. So the next stage of research and planning, where does this page sit on the buyer's journey? So do you guys understand the buyer's journey? Is that something that you guys are across? I don't know if Trav can throw a poll in there just to give me an idea of how many people are across the buyer's journey, awareness, decision, consideration, or consideration, decision. Just quickly as that gets set up. Awareness, consideration, decision. Awareness is when you have a problem. So the go-to example that we use is, say you are sick, say you get a cold. Awareness is you don't know what you have. You're trying to find out what your problem is. You're just saying, I'm sniffly, I have a sore throat. I don't really know what the deal is. In the awareness stage, you're Googling your symptoms. You're trying to work out what your problem is. Consideration, you have learned what the problem is. You have the flu. So now you know you have the flu. You start researching the flu. What kind of flus are going around? What sort of illnesses are spiking, etc. You know your problem. Now you've started looking for a solution. Decision is you know the problem, you know the solution. Now you're trying to find a specific solution that works for you. It's effectively looking at medicine brands, if we use that analogy. So awareness, you're trying to work out the problem. am I sick? How am I sick? Consideration is trying to work out the solution. What do I need to do to get better? What kind of illness do I have? Decision, which of these products is going to get me healthy the quickest? Those are the three sorts of stages. In the context of landing pages, each of these stages will affect the way you set up the landing page. So if they're in the awareness stage, then they are looking to they have a problem and they're trying to work out what it is. They have an issue, they're trying to work out what the problem is. So that's how the landing page should be set up. Is this the problem you're facing? If they're in the consideration stage, it's more so a solution. Here's the solution to the problem you're having. And you can mention the problem because they know about it. If it's in the decision stage, down the bottom of the funnel, you start talking about, this is how our product is going to help you. This is how our product is going to solve your issues. So where they are in that journey sort of has an impact on how you should talk to them. It's also very important that it's a seamless experience. And when I say that, I mean that you should never, ever open up a landing page and be surprised by what you see. The first thing is things like an ad, the ad that they came from, mimic the headline, mimic the phrasing, use the same words, use the same colors, everything. It should not ever be a surprise when the page loads. A few reasons for that. One, if it's very different, people might think they're in the wrong place or that they've clicked the wrong link and back out and go, oh, this isn't where I expect it to be. And then they leave. That's pretty severe. In general, though, if something doesn't feel like it matches up and that they feel like they've been sent somewhere where they weren't expecting to go, they may not trust that you're being honest with what's going to happen next effectively. So imagine you click on a link, you get sent to a page that doesn't really look like the brand that you thought it was. You might think that it's a fake. You might think that they're being a bit dodgy, something like that. You need to be consistent. You need to make sure that that experience is seamless and that every time you send them to a new page, push them through a new experience, it matches what they're expecting and it fits with everything else they've done so far. Buyer personas. So who has done some buyer? Who was here for the last webinar, actually? The buyer persona webinar with Olivia. A few here, a couple of people. Buyer personas are a hugely important part of inbound marketing, something we spend a lot of time on. In short, semi-fictional representations of your ideal audience that can be used to better focus your messaging. It's effectively just a way of setting up your audience, your ideal audience as a fictional person, so that every time you create a piece of content for that audience, you can imagine yourself writing it for a specific person. Take a case in point, one of ours, GM Greg, is a general manager named Greg. Whenever we write content that we want to pitch to a general manager style client, we write it for Greg. How would Greg respond to this? What would Greg think if he came to this landing page? That's what you should do with all of your landing pages. Decide which of your personas the page is directly aimed at, and every time you write a page, make sure it's very, very specifically targeted at them. That means that the language is the sort of language they would use, the images are the sort of images that they would respond to. It has people of the same age demographic, stuff like that. Every little element should be tailored for that specific persona. If you worry that doing that is going to make it not relevant for other people, that's an excuse to have more than one landing page. So if you're thinking, oh, if I tailor my landing page to GM Greg, then all the other people that we're trying to market and hopefully will come through as well aren't going to feel like this is for them, then you should create a second landing page, one that applies to them specifically. Multiple landing pages is always a good thing. Never have too many landing pages. What if you don't have buyer personas? Well, in that case, call me. I have a great buyer persona development service. I can hook you up. Or alternatively, hit up our last webinar that Liv did. So I think Trav's throwing a link in the chat there for anyone who needs some help with buyer personas. Next stage, wireframing. So you've gone through, you've planned out your landing page. You've ensured that it's pointing in the right direction and that that you have a specific person to target when you end up writing it and all that sort of jazz. The next stage is to start planning it out. So wireframing of the landing page is something that should really be done by the marketer in the situation. And the reason I say that is because it can be very easy to try and push this off to the designer, for example, and say, if you just wireframe up a landing page for us, this is what we want it to say, this is what we want it to do. Much, much better if you can do that stage, because it's up to the marketer or the business or whoever the person putting this stuff together is to define how it should be set up. The designer's job should effectively just be to make sure it works visually and it looks good. And I say that as a designer, not to imply that the design work isn't important. It's super important, but they shouldn't be the ones who have to work out where things go, the priority of different information, making sure that it hits all of the different best practices that we're about to go through. That being said, by all means, maybe it's worth training up your designer so they understand how to make a good landing page, and then they can take over some of that for you. But for now, it should be done by the marketer. I've mentioned here, consider the essential modules, then play with positioning on the page of these modules. We're going to go through essential modules in a second. Effectively, what I'm saying there is something like a headline is an essential module. An image is an essential module. All of these things that have to be on the page in some capacity exist, but you can play with where they show up and how they are laid out. I would be surprised if you choose to put the headline anywhere but at the top. But hey, give it a crack. Maybe that's an A/B test you want to do. More so if you have a trust icons, and then you have some context, and then you have a CTA, and then you put some more trust icons. Those are the sorts of modules I mean. You can change things up, try different things, get experimental when it comes to layout. There's no correct way to do it. Try different things, see what works, see what your customer likes. When it comes to wireframing specifically, we use a tool called Whimsical, which is a paid service. Oh man, Trav's quick on the trigger today, isn't he? Trav's just put a link to that. Whimsical, we love it. It allows you to very, very quickly and simply build out wireframes that use things like fake CTA buttons. You can import images. You can have little different text hierarchies, all that sort of jazz. Is this automated through HubSpot landing pages, wireframes? I'm not entirely sure what you mean, Grant. The one that you're seeing here on the right was something I made in Whimsical, if you're referring to this automated thing. HubSpot doesn't really have a wireframing functionality for their landing pages. It's just the landing page itself once you get it designed and developed. Wireframing would generally be something I take offline, or sorry, not take off HubSpot. If you don't want to use a service like this, just sketch it. You don't need to be an artist to put together a structure of a wireframe. Trav can attest to some just horrible drawings he's given to our designer over the years to try and get them to design up landing pages and whatnot. So you have your landing page, you have your landing page wireframes. The next step, SEO. So we're going to break a major SEO rule here, and this is something I spoke about earlier. No links off this page. This landing page that we're going to be creating has exactly one way off it, and that's through the form. If you get onto this page, you're stuck. You can either hit the back button in your browser, quit Google Chrome, or you can submit the form. Those are your only options. Every link that you put on a landing page that isn't completing your goal for that landing page is a distraction, and it's an opportunity for your user to leave and do something else, which we don't want them to do. A landing page should only present one way out, and that's the form or the call to action. For this reason, people can balk because it affects your SEO. Now, this sort of comes down to what you want from the page. As I mentioned at the beginning, there are different types of landing page, and we're going to be focusing today on a high converting landing page because that's what we've set out to talk about. If you want a page that ranks, say for example a pillar page, and that's something that I definitely think we'll be covering in an upcoming webinar, so keep an eye out if you're interested in that. But if you want a page that ranks, then yes, more links, more copy, all that jazz. This isn't one of those pages. This is a page that is dedicated to converting people. So less links, less copy. It can be a bit of a sacrifice you're making. I know there are definitely some SEO people that are hesitant to go down that path and they're worried that they're going to lose some places, it might happen. But this is sort of a worthwhile sacrifice to make, because it gives the people on the page a very, very, very clear, specific course of action. And then as soon as they've done that thing, you can send them wherever you like. You can put all the links back. You can let them continue their exploration. But on the landing page, no links. All that said, by all means, still optimize where you can. So H1 tags, alt text, metadata, like your meta descriptions, URLs, etc., keywords, everything like that. By all means, still follow best practice as you would a regular web page, because it is still going to have some organic value. It's just not going to be as good as a page specifically set up to do that. So wherever you can, set that up. I've also mentioned here, as I mentioned at the beginning, something like the no links rule wouldn't apply to, say, for example, an e-commerce product landing page. If you don't let someone browse items without committing to a sale, it's just not going to go good for you. People do not like being stuck on a page and the only thing they can do is buy. That's just going to piss people off. So these are rules that serve a purpose, a high converting page, not necessarily every landing page. Design and development. So now we're going to go into the different bits and pieces that go into making a landing page. So a bit of a change of gears here. This here is the recipe for a perfect landing page. Headline, images, video, CTAs, form, information or content, I guess is another word for it, social proof, and trust indicators, the graphic design, responsive design, and of course, love. When I mentioned before that we talked about essential modules, what you see on the left here is what I would call essential modules. You can have more than one of these. For example, you might have 2 sections with information or content. You might have multiple social proof sections. You might have multiple CTAs, but each one is a self-contained module. And this is where I'm talking about you can play with your layout of how things are shown. That said, there are a couple of best practices which we'll go through as we go through this. So beginning with a headline. First and foremost, answer the question that the user is looking to answer. As we've mentioned several times, landing pages provide solutions to problems, plain and simple. Use the same words they used when they first searched. So if they searched need help of how to set up Facebook ads, your headline should have the words Facebook ads in it. This is part of that seamless design. Don't surprise them. Make sure that what they clicked is what they get when they open up the page. Be clear and direct. Choose clarity over clever. For anyone with an advertising background, it can be very, very tempting to be smart with your headlines. Try and get a clever headline in there that's punny or whatever. 10 times out of 10, it's going to get beaten by something that's clear and obvious. People respond better to a clear course of action. So lean into that. The headline should also address your users' fears, needs, or desires. So this is another little advertising tip. You're going to get a lot better of a response if you're addressing someone on an emotional level. So less just talking about the features, more so talking about these sorts of behavioral, emotional responses. So how is it going to address this user's fear? How is it going to fulfill their need? How is it going to fulfill their desire? Something like that. That's probably a whole other conversation on copywriting, advertising copywriting, but it's a little sneak peek behind the curtain. Images and video. So using relevant imagery that your persona will relate to in terms of age, demographic, etc. Say you have a persona and they are over 60 generally. Perhaps you have a very specific offering that's very niche, maybe it's something like aged care. The images on the landing page should show people that your persona will relate to. If your landing page has images with young people living it up, it might feel very fresh and new and modern, but they're not going to relate to it. They're not going to feel like it's aimed at them. So keep in mind relevant imagery. Images comfort people. Walls of text do not. I don't know about you guys. If I open up a page and there's a big wall of text for me to read, I get cold sweats and I panic. A big pretty image instead, very reassuring. Well, it makes me want to keep scrolling. So a very basic psychological sense, use images to make yourself seem more relatable and more personable. Where possible, show your product service in use. If you have a physical product, show it being used, show what it looks like, stuff like that. Basic sales sort of tip. If it's a service, a little bit harder to do, but wherever possible, show your product. Maybe not, try not to rely as much, on stock photos. For video especially, we're personally on a big video kick right now. That was another webinar for those of you who may have missed webinar number 2, which is all about using video in marketing. Video has a lot of pros. In terms of landing pages specifically, it allows you to convey information very quickly. So a 5-minute video can tell you a lot more than 3,000 words of text. It's very personable. Again, similar to use of images, it makes you feel like you're interacting with a human being, not a business, because it's a human being talking to you, assuming you have a person in the video, which you probably should. It keeps users on the page. So if they watch a full 5-minute video, that's 5 minutes longer they're on the page. Google's going to reward that. It's also, those 5 minutes are 5 minutes where you get to try and sell them on what you're doing. And it can be an alternate way to get the user to submit a form. I've got a link there to, they call them collectors on our video service of choice 23. What I mean by that is that you can have it so that it pops up a form in the video, maybe at the end once they've watched it, or maybe 30 seconds in to allow them to watch the rest of it. It's just another way of getting a conversion out of people that isn't pushing them through the regular form. So any chance you get to try and get them to convert and to complete that goal, take it. CTAs. So a CTA is effectively just the call to action to try and get them to submit the form. The biggest and most important one is the submit button on the form, but you can have CTAs all throughout the page. Keep in mind, they shouldn't link off the page. They should only ever link back to the form or back to the relevant piece of information on the page, but you can sort of dot them throughout the page so that someone's never too far from a link. They never have to scroll too far to get back to where they were. Strong verbs encourage engagement, submit, download now, etc. Keep it short and sweet. Don't have a big 10-word button. It's confusing and people lose track. Design-wise, it should draw the eye immediately and constantly. I got their standout color in the page design. This sort of taps into graphic design a little bit. More important than choice of color is that it contrasts. More important than having it be a special color is that it looks different to everything else on the page, because that's going to draw the eye. And when they go, all right, I'm keen, you've sold me, they should be instantly able to see where they can go next to complete the form or to do whatever you want them to do. Finally, multiple CTAs, as I mentioned. Don't be afraid to have multiple links so that the person never has to scroll. Form. So forms can be tricky. No one really wants to fill out a form, I don't think. No one feels great about giving out information, even if they're only giving a name. I personally am getting to a point where I am very careful with what information I give to companies. Asking for the minimum information possible to encourage as many signups as possible is a very important point. The less you ask for, the better the odds that someone's going to sign up. If I go to a page and it wants my full address, they need to have a pretty good reason to ask for it. If I go to a page and they want to know about my education history, why? Why is this important to you? The less you can get away with asking, the better it's going to go for you. That being said, the better your offer, the more you can ask. So if, say, I'm signing up to a 12-month course, that's a pretty major investment for me. I'm going to allow them to ask some more specific questions there. It's totally reasonable for them to ask a few more things, because what I'm getting out of this equation, out of this transaction, to use my term from before, is a lot more valuable. A form ideally should sit above the fold. So I spoke earlier about when you can move around the layout and have different sections in different places and all that sort of stuff. Above the fold is a very important concept, which is to say the screen you see when the page first loads, being above the fold can be different on different screen sizes. So above the fold on a phone is different to above the fold on a big wide desktop is different to a laptop, for example. But all the important stuff should always sit above the fold. The form is one of those things. You want them to be able to fill out the form as soon as the page loads if they're keen. Don't make them hunt for the form. Have it there ready to go as soon as they get there. Smart forms. Now, this is something that I'm referring to HubSpot when I talk about smart forms, but I know it can be done elsewhere as well. What I'm talking about here is if you already know a piece of information about someone, say, for example, a phone number, and you have a phone number field on your form, then you can swap that field with something you don't know. So you've had them fill out a form in the past and they've given you their phone number. There's no reason to ask them for their phone number again. Sometimes the cookies will autofill and it's fine. Sometimes they won't. So what you can do is say, oh, I already know this person's phone number. How about I ask them a different question? Maybe I ask them how many people work in their business or in their agency or whatever. And that's, you're not making the form any longer, but now you're asking a new question and you're getting extra value out of this person whose phone number you already knew. I know Trav has another term for that. I don't know if you remember the other term we were using for those smart forms, Trav, but if you can't, throw it in the chat. There's something about progressive profiling. There it is. So you're progressively profiling the person who's on top of it. Next, make it clear what the benefit to submitting the form is. Don't have them fill out the form and not be sure what they're going to get in return because they're just not going to do it. You should make it abundantly clear what they're going to get out of this, what their side of this transaction is. And then finally, be very wary of asking questions your users don't know the answers to. When I say that, I mean, sometimes you want to have some specific piece of information that is a little bit more in depth that makes sense to you as a marketer, but they aren't really across. To use an example from my own life recently, looking at, say, an energy comparison, there was a question that was very specific to how energy was being run to the property or something to that effect, and I didn't know the answer. I'd have to do some research to understand the question they were asking. That is a warning sign because even if it's very important information, me having to go and think about it and reflect on it and research it means I'm probably not going to submit the form until I know what I'm talking about. So where possible, only ask questions you know your users know the answer to at any given time. You can get around that with things like help text or little pop-ups that say, oh, when I'm asking this question, this is what I'm referring to. All of that stuff, very, very useful. But still, the harder the question, the less likely they are to answer it. Next up. Sorry if I'm rushing, by the way. If I am, feel free to sing out. Just trying to push through it. Information or content. First things first, benefits, 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 as opposed to features. Don't talk about all the cool stuff your product can do. Talk about how it's going to help them. That's another advertising top tip. It's 1,000 times more effective if instead of saying, oh, we have the biggest battery, you say, we'll give you more power to keep doing the things you love to do. Speak to what they want out of your product or service. Unique selling proposition. This is where you should be laying out why you're different to everyone else and what you do differently that makes you you. Answer the question they're here to have answered. I've brought that up a few times. Always make sure you're answering the question, you're providing a solution. Don't go overboard. Short and sweet. Don't write an essay on this page. Just write what you need. Just write the 6 top things that are going to get them across the line. If you can't sell them in just a list of the benefits and features, then they need more nurturing and they need to go through another process. They're not ready for the landing page just yet. Explain the negative outcome of not submitting the form and receiving the product or service. That can be a little riskier if you say, if you don't submit this form, this is what's going to happen. Definitely try not to make it sound like a threat. That works in some cases. Talking about negative outcome, not the threat. If you say, oh, like this is why it's a good idea, and this is what you're looking towards if it doesn't play out. A little bit riskier, can get you some good results though. Social proof and trust indicators. Testimonials, reviews, ratings, logos of trustworthy software you use, past clients, everything like that are considered social proof or trust indicators. All of these things say we are a company that can be trusted, we are reputable, we are credible. This is why you can trust that this is a good deal for you, this transaction is good for you. Not an excuse to toot your own horn and to talk about how many awards you've won and all that sort of jazz. The goal is to show that you know what you're doing, not take a victory lap. So short and sweet, again, just enough to explain why you can be trusted. One thing that I see a lot, a good example, is for products that go through like Kickstarter and stuff like that, they'll talk about what publications have spoken about them as featured on the New York Times, etc. That's a trust exercise. Look at all these major media companies that have spoken about us. Finally, try and use relevant testimonials to the product or service. So if this is a very specific product or service, do your best to find testimonials, reviews, etc. that are relevant to this product or service. General ones about your business are good. Ones that are specific to this product or service are better, because it'll just create that link a lot stronger with people. Graphic design. The landing page should visually match the site, but not be identical to the web pages. So case in point, there shouldn't be any navigation, but at a glance, it should still look like the normal website. This is tapping into that seamless experience that we've mentioned. You don't want people to be surprised by what they're looking at. You don't want it to feel like it's a different site or anything like that. You want it to feel like a regular page. Oh, well, feel like part of the site, even if it isn't. Be appropriate with your use of color, white space. Landing pages need to look up to date and modern. If you have a good design team, that should just come naturally. CTAs need to be clear and draw attention. As I mentioned before, contrast, make sure they stand out, make sure that they are all throughout the page so that you're never too far from being able to take that next step. Above the fold, again, just reiterating, putting all the essential stuff above the fold is generally the best course of action. Sometimes you can find an excuse not to do that. It's pretty rare. Responsive design. So I don't have the specific numbers, but I'm sure you can all understand that a great many people surf on their phones. This is all every day. More and more people use the web through their phones. Your landing page needs to work well on the phone. As I mentioned, it has a different fold. It's going to have a different layout. You're going to have to rethink it a little bit to make sure that you're getting the same information across in the same way at a phone size. Don't be afraid to have a totally different design for phones. You can have it so that when it hits that breakpoint and moves down to the phone size, some major changes happen. Don't be afraid to do that. It's rare. Sometimes it'll happen, but it's rare for someone to look at your page on a phone and on a desktop. 9 times out of 10, even if they're different designs, it's still going to look consistent, or at the very least, it should look consistent. Finally, love. Not as important as you may think. Still helps though. Always add a little bit of love into your landing page. All right. Let me just quickly double check, see if there's any questions that I can jump on while we have a quick break. Oh, Trav's on top of it. Never mind. The next step, the blink test. So we've gone through, you've researched, you've strategized, you've wireframed, you've designed, and you've met all of the best practice points that I've put on that list, on that recipe. How do we know if they're working? The blink test is probably the quickest and easiest and the best one that I find to establish whether or not you're ticking the boxes. Effectively, what you're saying is, can you understand the major goal and the required action that needs to be taken of a landing page based on a 4 to 5 second look, just the time between 2 blinks of your eyes. A good landing page should make it abundantly clear how it will help you and what you need to do immediately. It should take no longer than that 4 to 5 second look to get it. So let's have a crack. Everyone ready? I'm about to jump to a page. I'm going to give you 4 seconds and I'm going to jump off the page. 3, 2, 1. Ooh, I didn't click the button. 3, 2, 1. All right. Now, that was pretty clearly a terrible landing. No, I did that landing page. It's great. I'm a big fan of that one. Did you remember who the page was targeted at in a general sense? Doctors is the answer there. You should know that you should have got from the headline that the person that this was targeted at was doctors. what did they have to do to progress? They had to fill out the form. What was going to happen once they submitted the form? Anyone remember? Home loans. Yes, home loans. They're looking at discounted home loans because they're doctors. And, well, who was the page aimed at? We've already established that one. Once again, so you can see the headline makes it very, very clear who this is targeted at, doctors who need home loans. The imagery is of a doctor. I'm feeling, if I am a doctor, I'm relating to it. I know what I need to do to get the home loan. It's submit this form. It's very quick. It's very simple. I know what my next step is. Let's try an alternative one. All right, you ready? Same game. 3, 2, 1. All right. Can anyone tell me who that page was targeted at? I'm guessing probably not. Did we know what we have to do to learn more, or what's going to happen when we submit the form? Did anyone see a form? Not great, not ideal. You can see that marketing simplified tells me nothing about what I'm getting here. Generate leads, drive sales, measure ROI, conflicting messaging there. There's different things happening. There's different goals, automation, lead nurturing, lead creation, phone tracking, lots of things happening. None of them are a form. Not a great landing page. So once you know that your landing page is working, how can we start optimizing it, and how do we finish this design process? So first step, split testing. Split testing, again, probably something that a lot of you guys understand, but in short, split testing is a method of optimizing specific elements on your page. So what you generally do is take one element, change it, create a new page with that new version, and then have the two pages compete to see which one does better. Take, for example, a headline. You have your page with your headline. Take a second version of that page, subtly change the headline, so maybe it's aimed at a different person, or addresses a different problem, or is speaking to a different solution, and then run them both. A good split testing software will evenly dish out the leads to each page, and then you'll see which one does better and which one gives you a better return. It's effectively a fight club for elements on a page. A few best practices with split testing: only ever test one change at a time so you can correctly attribute success. If you change a headline and an image on the second version of the page, you won't know which of them led to more clicks or less clicks. Give yourself enough time to collect proper data. Don't just put it together and then 2 days later decide that you've found your winner. You need more time, you need more data. Don't feel like you can rush this process. Always have a test running. There's no reason why you can't just always have one running in the background. You can have it be a very long test, have it run over the course of a couple of months, something like that. Just always have it going. It's always an opportunity to learn. Make sure you roll out that successful element to other pages. So when the time comes and you are able to select a winner, make sure that winner gets pushed to everything. An example, say you find out that you change the CTA color on your form. So the submit button goes from being green to red, and that leads to a 10% jump in conversions. Make sure that you then go and make all of your other CTAs on all of your other pages red, because it worked on this page, it'll probably work on them. That's another test. Any and all of the essential modules that we spoke about before can be tested. So headline, image, information, CTA, form, all of those. Finally, don't forget about your personas. Use these tests as a way to work out how different personas respond to different things, how they respond to different headlines, how they respond to different CTAs, etc. This is where personas come in super handy. And finally, our third step, tracking and optimization. So this is generally stuff that happens once the page is live, in a general sense. First off, metrics to track. So there are no constant set of metrics that are important to every landing page. It's going to be somewhat guided by what your goals are to what your metrics should be. But if you're looking for a general place to start, page visits, very important. You need to know this because it's relevant to your conversion rate. Keep in mind that the landing page itself doesn't really have much of an impact on page visits unless you're optimizing it to rank than it does. If it's a conversion-based landing page, generally it's the quality of your ads or the quality of your promotional materials that define the number of page visits. Visits by source, where are they coming from? Same as above, which channels are doing the best, and then submission rate by source, people coming from different places. Which one, say for example, are your PPC leads converting a lot more than the ones who come from email? Why? Is it a difference in wording? Is it a difference in how they're approaching the ad? Something like that. Average time on page, how long are they staying on the page? Are they losing interest early? Say for example, if the average time on page is a minute or two, you know that they're scrolling through, they're taking it all in. If the average time on page is in the seconds, then they're probably not getting through any of that information. That's something you can optimize. Why aren't they reading on? Is the content not strong enough? Stuff like that, etc. See you later, Martin. Sorry, you got to run. All of this presentation will be available to everyone after this. Make it on demand so anyone can check back. Finally, bounce rate. It's valuable to know if users are backing out of your site completely or heading back to the home page. This will tell you if you need to include more information on your page. So if people are coming to your page, having a read and then disappearing, that's one thing. If they're coming to your page, then going back to your home page or to another page on your site, they might be looking for more information on this. So you can put more information on the page and probably keep them there. Promotion. Sometimes one landing page can have multiple sources. Say, for example, a marketing campaign. That graphic I had at the beginning, where it had an email, PPC, social media. There's no reason you can't have multiple places linking to one landing page, as long as they all have the same messaging and you are creating a seamless experience for each person from each of those channels. I would always say better practice to match a source with a landing page. So each PPC ad gets its own landing page, perhaps email gets its own landing page, because you can tailor it to how they heard about it originally. But if you're strapped for time, you can use one landing page across different sources as long as that messaging is consistent. Always tailor the page to exactly what the person clicking the ad is hoping to see, especially in PPC. So that's what we mentioned before. Make it seamless. Don't surprise anyone with what they get on the landing page. Keep your pages updated. Roll out findings from split testing to all your pages. We mentioned that earlier. Don't set and forget. Keep optimizing over time. Always run tests. Constantly keep finding ways to improve. Ensure that website design updates carry through to existing landing pages. It can be easy to have 30 landing pages existing on your site, then do a website redesign and forget to update them so that they're consistent. Just make sure that any sort of major changes you make to your design or style carry through to old existing landing pages. Finally, personas should be updated every 6 months or so. Liv might have even said more often, 3 months. This is an excellent opportunity to review your landing pages. Make sure that they are still targeting personas. If you have new personas, see how perhaps new landing pages might be in order. If your existing personas are being updated, are your landing pages still on track? Are they still doing what they need to do, etc.? And then just some general optimization tips. So this is just some stuff that we've found from experience that are worth keeping in mind. Page load time. A slow loading page can super affect your conversion rates. If it's slow, people think you're a little bit less trustworthy. If it's very slow, then they just won't bother and they'll go somewhere else. Scarcity tactics, just sort of a general sales tactic. Put a time. Some people like to put timers on there. If you do something like that, make it count. Like I've seen enough people that put a timer on there, and when the timer hits 0, nothing happens. That's, you know, I mean, yeah, sure, it's a scarcity tactic, but it's a little bit of a dishonest one in my opinion. If you're going to have a scarcity like that, commit to it. In general though, say limited time offers, all that sort of stuff, totally work on landing pages. Click triggers. So a click trigger is sort of the last line before the submit button. Think where it says 1 year guarantee or free shipping or something like that, right when you're about to hit the submit button, as the last opportunity to get them across the line. So they're hovering over submit, they're not sure about it. The click trigger is your last little thing that might get them across the line. Something to keep in mind. You can try all different ones. One thing to definitely not do is put a negative thing in that click trigger. You see some people who will put a click trigger underneath the submit button that was like, we will never send you spam or something like that. And the person who's about to click it hadn't been thinking about spam, but now they are. So don't introduce a new negative concept right as they're about to click. Just have positive things, positive reasons why clicking the button is a good idea. And then finally, smart content. So for those of you who are around for my first webinar on smart content, that's effectively changing the content of a page to reflect the person reading it. Absolutely something you can do with landing pages. This is a HubSpot specific thing, but personalized content exists on the site, on the internet in general. Absolutely doable. Keep in mind that generally it relies on a cookie, and you won't have the cookie if this is the first conversion you're getting off someone. So you need to make sure it works for just the Joe Blow off the street every time, because they're going to be a majority of the people. In the event that you do have some information on people though, say for example, their persona type, then absolutely you can have it change different parts of the page to reflect their specific situation. That'll allow you to get out of having multiple versions of the page. So if you don't have smart content, it's easy enough just to have multiple versions of the page. If you do have access to something like that, then by all means, maybe if they are of a different specific segment or persona, you change the headline to something that's going to appeal to them specifically. All right, so you've got the conversion. We're just going to touch briefly on some of the next steps. This sort of chat was meant to be about conversions on the landing page, and I know we're running a little bit long, so I'm going to rush through this. But a landing page doesn't exist in a vacuum. Thank you pages, post-conversion, nurturing, these are all super important. So in short, you have three major options when it comes to a user completing your goal. An inline thank you message, which is basically just where the form says, thank you for submitting, we'll be in touch. You can send them to a thank you page or a specific page that wraps up this process, or you can send them directly to the content or to another page like a home page. Having a tailored thank you page allows you to continue that seamless experience one extra step, which is really, really powerful. So you can ensure that the next thing they see is consistent with what they've seen on the ad and on the landing page. It also allows you to return things like navigation, links. You can send them to different parts of the site again. Now that you've got the conversion, you can relax your restrictions on forcing them to do what you want them to do. Now it's a little bit free again. That said, include a logical next step through the journey. So if this was an awareness piece and they wanted to learn more about their problem, they've submitted the form, you've sent them an ebook, now push them towards the next stage, solutions. Start pushing them into some consideration content, send them to the blog, something like that. Try and keep them moving, keep up that momentum. Finally, I know there was a question on this before around social sharing links. I wouldn't put social sharing links on the landing page. Similar reason to why you wouldn't have any links on there, it's a distraction, but you can put them on the thank you page. So if you want to have it be able to share this offer with people, put them on the thank you page and have those links send you to the landing page, not the thank you page, obviously. Because this person has committed to it and has signed up, they may know other people who will as well, or they're invested now, right? Nurturing, or the sending of automated email sequences to encourage further movement through the buyer's journey. So this is just hitting them back with emails, adding them to some sort of email sequence so that you can keep track, so that you can keep in touch with them and build that relationship. Nurturing is a much bigger process than this. This will probably almost definitely be covered in another webinar, but for now, keep in mind that you want to try and maintain this relationship as soon as you have their information. So send them an email, hit them back with whatever their product that they've downloaded was, and then yeah, just start building out that relationship. Now let's just jump through some quick examples. We're in the last leg. Back to my favorite Dr. landing page. What I dig. So all of the essentials are above the fold. You saw at the top there. It'll come back around. That we had a form, we had a headline, we had a relevant image, we had some benefits. It was all there. It was great. No navigation. There's no way off this page except the submit buttons. super clear headline that speaks to the user intent. So are you a doctor looking for home loans? Spoiler alert, they are, because they clicked on a link that was aimed at doctors looking for home loans. Related imagery is relevant to the persona. If I'm a doctor, the image is of a doctor, I'm relating to that. It's extremely simple. There's no clutter. It's not trying to get me to do 1,000 things. Could it be improved? I think maybe I would say the CTA's wording could be a little bit more direct. It just says submit. I would say maybe get into that a little deeper and have something that more clearly outlines what's going to happen when they click that button. Another one, same company. This one's a home loan guide to Brisbane. All of the essentials again above the fold. Again, no navigation. Very simple, very related image, a lot of related imagery. Clear description of benefits and features. So this one's a little bit more text heavy than the doctor one, but it's laying out why this is a good thing and what you're going to get from submitting this form. This is what's in the guide. This is what the chapters are, etc. Could it be improved? Yes, I would say. You can also see that the CTA there, get the guide, is a little bit more direct than the last one, which just says submit. My recommendations, more CTAs, have another CTA at the bottom of the page so they don't have to scroll back up to the top. And maybe some social proof, something to just sort of get across the line that this is a trustworthy company that has done some cool stuff in the past. This one here, again, very similar, all above the headline, essentials above the fold, no navigation. This one has a scarcity claim, so it's a limited time offer, and it's a very clear description of the benefits in those 2 windows that you saw there. This one, much like the last one, I think could use a little bit more social proof. Otherwise, ticks all the boxes, including at the bottom of the page, having another CTA that pushes you back up to the form. And then one from our own backyard. Now, I mentioned before that you should always have the form above the fold. You can see that we don't have it, but what we do have it is when you click the button, it pops up. So this was our way of getting around the fact that we had a video that we wanted to use, and we wanted to put that at the top of the page, so it was the first thing you saw. You couldn't have the video, the headline, and the form, or we couldn't find a way to make that work visually. So what we've done is hide the form behind the button. When they click the button, it pops up. Then we just give them a lot of different buttons that will open up that form. So all throughout the page, you'll find buttons that will trigger that pop-up. And then at the bottom, there's the form itself once they've scrolled down that far. We have a headline that directly relates to what the people were searching for. In this case, it was aimed at people searching for marketing and RTOs. There are interactive elements, so the mouse over those gray boxes lights them up. That's an interactive element that keeps people a little bit more interested. Different CTAs, you can see there's one there that says learn more. In a second, we're going to see some more that say, I want more students, I want more leads to enroll. These are all different CTAs, but they all go to the same place. They're all pointing back to that form. We're trying to cover off as many different potential problems and solutions throughout our CTAs by phrasing it in different ways. Could we improve this page? I think that it is a little bit long. I could probably condense some information on this and make it a slightly tighter experience. It's just a lot of scrolling effectively to get through it. That being said, a long page isn't always a bad thing if you can keep people invested and keep them interested. And another thing, a little bit of a peek behind the curtain, I know that we're not currently split testing on this page. So that's something that I would improve, is having some alternatives. One might be having the form visible. So what's better, having it behind that button or having it immediately visible? All right, finally, I know there's a few of you who are here who use HubSpot, who come to some of our other HubSpot webinars. This is a quick look at how HubSpot allows you to track landing pages and some of the metrics they give you just naturally. Any service that does landing pages will give you very similar stuff. This is just what we use. So this is me going through our tool set. But whatever you use, by all means, give it a crack. I haven't really gone into the tool where you make the landing page because it's pretty basic. It's the same as designing a web page in a lot of ways. One thing that I will quickly note is that they do have a list of optimizations, so different things that you can do to improve the page from an SEO point of view. In terms of reporting, however, you can see that they give you some revenue indication. This is a new attribution tool that they're working with that allows you to see how many people are affecting your revenue in your deals pipeline. We have things like views, submissions, contacts, all of those essentials that we covered off before, time per page view, entrances, bounce rates, etc. You can see when the views came in, and it's broken down by source for you, so you have a really clear idea of where they're coming from and who's converting. And then we have some optimization data. So these are the search terms that people are responding to. This is where they're coming from. This is an opportunity to better target your page to the questions people are asking. On the right here is a quick look at what you see when you run a split test. So you can see it's giving me views on 2 different pages there. The first one in orange, the second one in green. I can see from the name that I'm testing 2 different headlines. And then at the bottom, I'm seeing oh, sorry, didn't expect the scroll to do that. I can see the breakdown of views, etc. by test. All right, last page. The last opportunity, I'd say before I get into this, if you have any questions that you've been sitting on, hoping I'd answer and I haven't gotten around to them, throw them in now, and we'll quickly go through them after this. But effectively, this is the end game. My best practice recommendations. So 1, create landing pages that have a clear goal, strive to fulfill your customer's intent, first and foremost. That's what we mentioned at the start. The most important thing here is answering the question, providing the solution. Do that. Only 1 course of action ever. No links, no offers, no distractions, or no other links, offers, or distractions. Give them one way off this page through your form. And if you think that if they need a button or they need a link to get them back to the form, do that. But that's the goal here. Target a specific persona with each page. Tailor the experience to them. If you feel like it's too specific, create multiple pages. So every page should be effectively written exactly as your persona would want it to be conveyed to them, down to tone, language, the types of words you use, the colors, etc. Attention, interest, desire, action. Ensure your page gets their attention, keeps their interest, plays on their desire, gives them a course of action. Remember the ingredients in the recipe to an effective landing page: headline, images, form, CTA, information, social proof, responsive design, and of course, love. These are the essential modules that you can play with. Use a blink test to assess whether or not you're being clear and simple enough. And there are other tests you can do. I know there's a 6-foot test where you stand on the other side of the room and see if your headline and imagery conveys enough information at a glance. I just think the blink test is the best one. It's rare that you look at a computer from 6 feet away. So, you know. Split test always, 1 element at a time. Always have a split test running. Just make sure you focus it on a specific element. Update pages often to ensure they remain relevant. So keep on top of it. Make sure that you don't let things stagnate or get old and out of date. And finally, use a thank you page to maintain the seamless experience for your users. So make sure that your landing page maintains what they've experienced on the ad. Make sure your thank you page maintains the landing page. Make sure all of it maintains your website so that no one's ever surprised ever. And that brings us to the end. So I don't know if there were any questions that you guys wanted to throw at me, but in general, hopefully you've gotten a little bit of something out of landing pages. We've covered off a lot of the different ways that you can optimize them and make sure that they are built in a way that are driving conversions, and that's the goal. I've got here our next one coming up. If you're interested in sticking around till June 5th, is how to build an inbound marketing campaign from start to finish. So that'll be a really good one. That's actually the first thing I ever did in my internship, was put together a document like that. So close to my own heart. That one will be run by Olivia though. So for those of you who are the big Liv fans out there, she'll be coming back. Otherwise, this will be made available to you on demand after this. By all means, share it if you think that there's people in your team or in other teams that can benefit from anything we've covered today. Share it with them. If you have any questions for me, hit me up. Absolutely. Hit up Trav. He's in there as well. And we can answer anything that's a little bit more specific. If you want some assistance with any sort of landing page stuff you're working on, then give us a shout. Otherwise, I think that's about everything, unless you've got anything you want to add, Trav. Cool. All right. I'll catch you guys at the next one. Cheers.